You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. It's the best two from the Fantasy Wildcard team. It's me, Mags. You can follow me over on X at HotSeatMags, and it is the best mind in the biz. It's Kev. You can find him over on X at the Dynasty Mind. Kev, it's just us two tonight. No Ali, he's still wiping away his tears after his hero Tom Brady got absolutely incinerated over the weekend. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing absolutely brilliant, Max. Thank you for the lovely intro. Poor Ali, his main man got roasted over the weekend, and it was absolutely brilliant watching that. I've actually got a bit of respect for Bill Belichick now. Still not the GOAT, but he's definitely back up there in the contention. But it just feels like so long since we've done a show. We had the reaction show with the Dynasty Theory boys, and been itching to get some thoughts out into the public domain, and had plenty of rookie drafts ongoing in last week. So yeah, can't wait for tonight's show. How are you doing, Max?
Yeah, mate, doing really well. Excited for this one. Obviously, we did a little pre-NFL draft rookie mock, so we're going to have a little look tonight post-draft and see what's changed, who has risen up, who's fallen back down, and we'll chat through some of these players as well in a nice little two-rounder. And Kev, no time like the present. You're going to take the odds. I'm going to take the much more difficult evens. So, Kev, we'll go to you first. We're super flex here. Are we going to do tight end premium, Kev? We never spoke about this. Will we do a premium or we keep it standard, the tight ends?
I absolutely hate tight ends, so let's keep it non-premium.
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 Let's do that. And we'll pitch it over to you first, Kev. Is this super chalky at the one then? We knew where he was going to go. Is this who we think, or are you mixing it up?
Yeah, it's Caleb Williams. It's been Caleb Williams for years. Nothing's changed with the expected landing spot. Nothing crazy happened on draft night. Just thinking about like situations, perfect, one of the best of all time for a 101 in real life and dynasty rookie drafts. I think as well. Work it backwards to startups. He goes before Marvin Harrison, before Neighbours, and I think like in a year's time, even if Marvin Harrison has a slightly better season and Caleb Williams has a good season, Caleb's still going to go ahead of Marvin Harrison and the rest of the guys. So I think he's just so safe. I've been trying to think of like ways where it wouldn't be Caleb Williams, and it's absolutely difficult. Even if you wanted a higher ceiling guy like a Jaden Daniels at QB and you can't trade back, I just feel that he's got a perfect blend of floor and ceiling, and everybody in your league, or everybody should have him as 101 in your league. So he's the pick, and I think it's a chalky start, but it's the correct move in my eyes.
For you, is he in a tier on his own, Caleb Williams? Is there any scenario where you would take somebody else in this format, or is he just, it's always Caleb?
See, it is difficult because I've had a tier of 4, which, like we've said on previous shows, like it's only really a tier if in some scenarios you could potentially go the other way. Only way I could see it in this now would be like if there's some crazy rushing points scoring in your league bonuses through a Jaden Daniels, or if there's something additional for the wide receivers to make a bigger impact. But just your standard leagues, maybe you can call it a tier 2, then another tier 2. So yeah, just have to play it as it is. I've not seen anybody other than Caleb go 101. I think apart from one league where it was the wrong decision.
Yeah, so Caleb, yeah, for me as well. I'm right there with you. You left me with like I said, the tricky even numbers here. I'm gonna go, and it's between two guys for me here, Kev. I'm going to stick to my sort of tried and true method, though, which is in Superflex, just take the quarterback. So I'm actually going to go ahead here and take a Jaden Daniels. Now, this is definitely in a tier with Marvin Harrison Jr. There will be leagues where I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. There will be leagues where I'll take Jaden Daniels. Those two are sort of in their own tier. I wouldn't take any of the others outside of them. The reason I'll go with Jaden Daniels is the exact same reason that last year I was telling everyone you got to go with CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson. It's that these quarterbacks just have so much more value going forward if they hit down the line. If Jaden Daniels hits his ceiling, you can go get a Marvin Harrison plus for Jaden Daniels. So it is, while a riskier pick than Marvin Harrison Jr., I think it's one that will garner that extra value. We've seen Justin Jefferson, is undisputed that wide receiver 1 overall. He's still going 8, 9, 10 in startups. Look at where CJ Stroud is now, going number 2 overall. You can get Justin Jefferson plus for CJ Stroud. So I'm using the same tried and true method, taking the quarterback, hoping the value hits, and then if you need to, you can move them on later down the line, even though I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is actually a better prospect.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, it's amazing to see how the community's come around on this, because I remember back to when Justin Jefferson was a rookie and he was like borderline round 1, early round 2 in rookie drafts. I foolishly took Jalen Reagor over him in an early second round in a shallow League of 10 team league, which I've, it's my home league as well, which is double the fun. Then there's guys like Jamar Chase. He was maybe the 5th or 6th pick. I got him in a draft at 106, I think, when in his rookie season. So there's lots of examples of these top wide receivers not being like the 102 or 103 in your rookie drafts.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm just going to go down. Is this where you just snipe Marvin Harrison off me right after Kev? Is that what's going to happen here?
That's exactly what's going to happen. It'll be my first Marvin Harrison share, considering I've probably done about 9 or 10 rookie drafts so far. First Marvin Harrison share. I've personally not seen him get past the 102 in any league yet. I think, look, we know how solid of a prospect he is and who his dad was and all the good stuff. Like, he's a brilliant prospect and there's very few holes in him, but it's just one of those where, you know what, we've seen it before where excellent prospects come out and don't smash it in year 1. So just temper your expectations. Is he the wide receiver 5 in Dynasty? Probably not, but that's where he's going. But I just think he's a safe pick. I think it's really close between him and the next guy, and actually the landing spot for the next guy, people are down on it, but I'm not in that same ballpark. I think that the next guy, his value hasn't changed at all for me.
I mean, the next guy, you're just presuming I'm definitely going to take this guy next, Kev. I mean, you don't know if I am or not. I mean,
you are a wild card.
Well, we are. That's why I fit this team so nicely whenever you asked me to join, Kev. It just seemed to work. But I was gonna ask you some questions about Marvin Harrison Jr. But actually, you know what? I can't be bothered. Really, and I genuinely think that it's like so many people are just like, shut up about Marvin. Yeah, we get it. It's like he's like that kid at school that is just good at everything. You're like, just get lost. He's going to come in. He's going to be great. I'm almost fed up talking about he's so talented. So we're just going to move on to a guy that has slightly more flaws to his game, but someone I'm just as excited about. I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. Now, I know I just spoke a little bit about, you got to taking that quarterback. For me, the other quarterbacks on the board, they're not the same as a CJ Stroud or like I mentioned, they don't have the same kind of upside, although Drake May can run with the ball. We know that. I just think I'm going to go and take a guy like Malik Neighbors, who just is a little bit more special than those guys. I think, unlike Jaden Daniels we spoke about, he's got that sort of magic special dust to him. I don't think the other players on the board here have quite got that like Malik Neighbors does. I think he's going to come into the Giants. People are poo-pooing on the landing spot. I think he's going to get fed targets. if Daniel Jones doesn't work, the Giants are an organization that actually I think can go out and either trade for a veteran quarterback or pick up one of these guys in 2025. They may not be looking great right now, but we never know what's going to happen. No one's seen Jaden Daniels coming, I suppose. So, yeah, I'm going to take the talent of Malik Neighbors here, even though the landing spot isn't perfect. I mean, I asked so many people, does landing spot matter with Malik Neighbors? And everyone said no. So here we are. It's time to see if that's true because he's at New York. I think he'll do okay though.
Yeah, I think he'll do absolutely fine. And like in real life, the first 4, 5, 6 picks for the skill players, it was pretty chalky. It was what was expected. So I remember pre-draft saying that it's likely that Harrison goes to Arizona and Neighbors goes to the Giants. And in my rankings, I had it the other way, and now I have it this way. Do you know what I think? I'm not going to say that I would take Neighbors over Harrison, but I wouldn't put it out of a range of possibilities just based on landing spot. I think, like you say, he's going to get fed a ton of targets. There's going to be a QB upgrade or better QB play than is expected, I think, because they can't afford to. And there's always outs at QB. There's always opportunities to upgrade. Just think about the 2 guys that are in Pittsburgh. One of those has the potential to be traded or become a free agent after this season. So, yeah, there's going to be options out there if they really want to make that next move at QB.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. So Neighbors is locked in. Kev, again, you got the easy picks, dude. Again, just laying these up for you. No, this is maybe slightly more difficult than people think, but where are you going with 105?
I'm just sticking to my guns. Like it's JJ McCaffrey for me, someone that I was probably a little bit faster than most to be high on him pre this really gorgeous landing spot with the Vikings. I think I have him as the same tier as Drake May as a prospect. And I will admit, like in rookie drafts, I do tend to see more McCarthy over May now. Or it's probably like 60-40, which I do still find it rather funny that like people didn't have McCarthy in this tier and now they've got him in the tier and above Drake May. So don't be like that. If you've got a stance on a player, you can potentially move them up a tier. I would say, like, I try not to, but like for an example like Xavier Worthy, which was just everything was perfect. The draft capital landing spot, he did move up a tier for me. I think with McCarthy, he stayed exactly where I had him. I love the landing spot. I'm not put off by the real life talks of the Vikings are trying to trade everything to get up to number 3 for Drake May. We'll never know the true answer, but I do love that profile. And what's not to like, I think there's more to come from him. If he's in a situation where he's got to pass, we're going to see more passing, we're going to see more rushing. And yeah, he's someone I'm really rooting for to smash it in the league.
Yeah, I mean the whole like he said, she said thing with the trades, I always find that a little bit funny, right? Like if the Minnesota Vikings didn't believe in JJ McCarthy, he wouldn't be a Minnesota Viking. Like it's as simple as that, right? They wouldn't draft a guy they don't think is going to be good. So yeah, I love the landing spot for him. Like we said, with Justin Jefferson and with all those other weapons there, I love JJ McCarthy. You're making things easy for me though, Kev. Next time, I'm gonna go Drake May here. I think he is. Oh, it's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know if we can keep that up. Maybe, maybe. But yeah, I just Drake May, super solid prospect, a guy that I think a lot of people are guilty of sort of forgetting how good he is. You know, this time last year it was Caleb and Drake May, and nobody else was really being mentioned too much. So I think he's gone to New England, the new regime there. That's kind of the curveball. I don't know what people are expecting to happen at New England. They've surrounded him with, I mean, a lot of mediocre talent.
Yeah.
But that is better than what Mac Jones was surrounded by. I can tell you that much. That he was surrounded by a lot lower than mediocre talent. So he's got a couple of guys there that might be able to do a good job for him. And I think they should be patient with Drake May, give him a chance and slowly build a team around him. Don't expect fireworks from him in the first year, but I think he'll be a super safe prospect and a guy that might just be a reliable quarterback 2, quarterback 3 for your team going forward, which is, people forget, that's fine, right? Not every pick has to be this home run, like absolute slam dunk prospect. You need these guys in your teams, and getting a safe player in round 1, I love it.
Yeah, I think with Drake May, people are going overboard on the landing spot, and it's the stink of the Patriots, but it's a new regime, it's a new coach. I think, if I'm right, the last Pro Bowler the Patriots drafted was Gronkowski on the offensive side of the skill positions, which is, if not, then that's Gronk's fault. I'm sure I said that on the greatest roast of all time, which was which was great. But yeah, don't be put off by the landing spot. He's got immense talent, immense upside. There'll be some leagues where I'd be comfortable taking him over McCarthy, looking for the riskier asset in my eyes. But yeah, I can't argue with that pick at all. It's spot on.
Thanks, man. Well, let's see if I can argue with your next one then. I'm pick number 7. Who are you going with?
Do you know what? Like, part of me wants to pick Xavier Worthy because I think it's a bit spicy. And
have you? No, actually, we'll get to that later. I was going to go on a rant.
Yeah.
I'll save it.
Maybe it might come in. Maybe we're on the same wavelength in a bit. We'll see. But I'm going to go for the talented wide receiver in Rome Odunze. So, again, people are getting put off by landing spot. There's DJ Moore, there's Keenan Allen there. I don't know what they're expecting to be like open landing spots, which were great. I think everybody wants the wide receiver to be on the Chargers, but that didn't happen. Look, in a year's time, I think Keenan Allen's going to be out of Chicago. Caleb Williams will be top 6 Dynasty QB probably. If it hits, he's going to just rise naturally. And Rome Odunze is going to be probably a 1B in that offense, which is great. People are comparing it to JSN. It's not like JSN at all, because there's clear pathways as to why he's going to be the number 2 next year. He's not just a slot-only wide receiver like JSN as well, so he can win a number of ways. He can win from all alignments. I've seen Odunze slide, and I know we spoke about the fall of Rome Odunze several times, several shows. I've seen you touting it, Mags, which has been quite hilarious. But look, for me, he was closer to tier 1 than tier 3, looking just at wide receivers, and not a lot's changed from that respect. It's just that one of the wide receivers from a tier below has jumped up, and I'm sure you know who that is.
I've got a pretty good idea of who that might be, Kevin. I think it is important to note as well, if you look at these guys like your Keenan Allen, or you look at your DJ Moore even, these are guys that just, a year ago, like, they were not really considered to be top tier, Dynasty values. People were almost done with Keenan Allen because he had an injury-prone year, and people thought this is the decline. People were fed up with DJ Moore being the nearly guy, the guy that was talented, that could never really get over the line. Now, all of a sudden, they've had, like, 1 year of kind of proving it to people that they are that guy, and yeah, people are just kind of going to put them up on this pedestal. I think it's short-term thinking, which isn't usually the best thing to do in Dynasty. I think Rome Odunze will definitely clear himself out a path there for sure. And you have to remember, this could be a real long-term relationship with a guy like Caleb Williams. So I think Rome not falling too far down just kind of shows you just how good he is. Had to get that one in just slightly, Kev. So I'm gonna go with pick number 8. I am tempted to be a massive homer and bump up my guy into pick 8, but I'm gonna stick with the pre-draft thinking here. I'm gonna go with the elite talent here. I'm gonna go with Brock Bowers. The reason for that is that he's by far the best tight end in this class. He's the best tight end prospect we've seen in several years. He's someone that I'm not really worried about the landing spot. I know some people are. I don't see Michael Mayer as a threat to Brock Bowers. In fact, Brock Bowers comes from a system where they used to run 2 tight end sets constantly. So I think he's used to having someone like a Darnell Washington going out there doing the dirty work, which I expect Michael Mayer to do, which allows Brock Bowers the freedom to go out there and be that passing weapon that we all know he is. Interestingly, I don't think this would change for me if it was tight end premium, unless it was a ridiculous one. I think Brock Bowers at 1.8 is a pretty nice landing spot. I'm going to double down on what I said last year. I think the landscape is changing on this rookie tight ends don't produce. I expect big things from Brock Bowers year 1, or I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement on this pick. I have seen him slide in some places in some drafts, and it is mind blowing because I've been trying to trade up to get to Brock Bowers. People saying that, well, but if you're expecting Brock Bowers to block for Michael Mayer, I can't help you. Like, this is a guy that's gone so high in the draft. He's unbelievable as a receiver. Tons of 100-yard receiver games at Georgia, a team that doesn't pass lots and lots. I mean, they're not going to take him there to make him to change his game totally. Like, his profile is not a blocker. Michael Mayer's profile was more of a blocker.
Yep.
What are we doing, people? It's Brock Bowers, and in worse classes, he's what, top 5 easily.
Yeah, easily. I'm in agreement there, Kev. So Bowers locked in. Before the draft, there was a consensus sort of top 7. Now that JJ McCarthy has got that great landing spot, Kev, is this very much for you the consensus top 8 players in the draft? And is there a tier break after this for you?
So I've got it as a top 10 now. Right? Pre-draft, I had this 8, and then the next guy who I'm going to pick on his own. But actually, there's another guy that jumps as well, which we will get to at some point. But this pick for me is Xavier Worthy. Like, if you could literally have picked the perfect draft night, it would have been round 1 draft capital. It would be a team trading up a little bit to show they've got that real interest, that real intent to use him properly. It's not someone that's just fallen and they've thought, you know what, we can't pass. It's someone that's actively gone up and traded for him. It's someone that has the best QB in the NFL if we're talking real life terms. And it's an offensive guy that, I think you might have heard of this guy, Andy Reid. He knows what he's doing. So it was just the perfect spot for Xavier Worthy. People will say, look, there's a history of wide receivers not hitting their Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman, etc. But it's completely different. This is a round 1 wide receiver where they've actively moved up. And usually when Andy Reid moves up, he does a pretty good job, right?
I mean, I have to point out Sky Moore and Mecole Hardman, both Super Bowl winning touchdown pass catchers. I will point out to everybody listening. Xavier Worthy, I mean, if you remember the pre-NFL draft show we did, I think I said something along the lines of, let me just pray to all the gods that are out there that Xavier Worthy ends up on the Chiefs. And here we are. And what I was going to mention earlier, Kev, we've got this whole thing happening now where there's been one video of Xavier Worthy not being able to catch a pass that was quite tricky. Have you seen this?
I've not seen the video, no. I've been sleeping.
People are up in arms about Xavier Worthy. It's literally one clip, and it's just no. What are we doing here? This is
it's like the reverse of the Justin Ross clip. It sounds like last year.
Yeah. Where Justin Ross couldn't drop a pass. Yeah, exactly. So please don't fall for any of that. It's all just, we haven't seen Xavier Worthy playing for the Kansas City Chiefs yet. Nothing you see from training camp video. No. If you think you can decipher how good a player is from one clip from, a pre-camp practice, I've got news for you. You can't. So let's move past that, and we'll fly by Xavier Worthy on to pick 110. And I'm back on the board here. Head, this is pretty tricky, right? But I'm going to go for a prediction that a lot of people made pre-NFL draft, and that was that there will be some running backs pushed up the board because of landing spot. And for me, Jonathan Brooks got an absolute killer landing spot. He was my running back one even before he ends up at Carolina. I mean, he's got Miles Sanders and, the Chupa Chup, whatever his name is, for competition. So he can surely do better than a lollipop and Miles Sanders, even on one leg. So I'll take Jonathan Brooks all day long here. What do you think about Brooks, Kev?
Yeah, I think he's someone that, like, he was my running back one pre-draft. He's someone who I didn't expect him to get this early draft capital with the injury, or like, people are down on Carolina. This is an offense where Dave Canales has come in and he said, I'm going to run the ball, and he's got the two offensive guards he's paid a ton of money to, and he's not messing about. Like, Brooks around this range in drafts is absolutely fine for me. I think if it's any other running back in round one, it's put your face behind your hands sort of moment. But Jonathan Brooks is someone that there is risk there. There's probably more risk there than people realise, not just the injury, but the fact that in college he had, if we could talk about his total rushing attempts in college, in fact, if we talk about his total touches in college, it's less than Blake Corum's rushing touches in his final season. Yeah. In one season. So, and that's a predictable thing where if you're not touching the ball in college, it's difficult to touch in the NFL because your body hasn't took those hits. You get injured like he has. But I just think the upside is massive, and the back end of round one in rookie drafts and probably most of round two, I think it's a bit of a mess. I think it's nowhere near as good as last year based on some of the landing spots, some strange draft capital, some of the players that we wanted to get good spots and draft capital, it didn't happen, and vice versa. So you get these terrible assets getting moved up and these good ones getting pulled down. But Jonathan Brooks is someone that's a nice blend of both, albeit with a bit of a longer trajectory.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the only running back I'd be happy to take in round one. Kev, you mentioned a tier of 10. Was Brooks that last guy, or is this guy coming off the board now at 11?
Yes, it's the next guy, unfortunately, but I knew you wouldn't pick him because you hate this guy.
Ooh.
You absolutely hate Bo Nix. That laugh says it all. So, yeah, like, I'm not crazy over Bo Nix myself. Like, prospect-wise, probably not an early round one guy. It might have stuck into the back end in my eyes, but okay, he's super flex. He's an early round one guy. He's gone to Sean Payton's offense. He's going to be the starter. It's a process play. If Will Levis is going in this range last year, Bo Nix deserves to go in this range this year. Just like I mentioned with on the Jonathan Brooks part, I think it's a bit of a mess. And personally, I'm happy to take a punt on Nix from the 110. It's going to be really, really difficult to pass on Bo Nix. I've seen him slide, though. I've seen him slide into round two easily because people just see the prospect profile, the videos, and think, he's not it. But if he has half a good season, you're going to be able to cash out and get at least your money back, potentially with a little bit extra on top.
Yeah, don't love Bo Nix. Don't love the prospect. For me, watching him, he just sort of screamed backup quarterback. But here we are. He got the draft capital he did. We have to listen to that. He's a starting quarterback now in the NFL. You have to take him here. Yeah, even if you don't like the prospect, like I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than Sean Payton, about players. Sean Payton wanted to get in Bo Nix, so I'll take a shot on them here at the back end of the first round as well. So yeah, I think that is important. You sort of mentioned that, I don't like him, but that shouldn't stop me from drafting him. Does that make any sense, Kev?
Yeah, I think it's really important for people, like any player. It shouldn't be about the player or the videos or the highlights or anything. It should just be about this type of asset, this range of outcomes, this value, and work it back from there. So even if there's players you don't like or there's players you love, just be open-minded.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So now I'm at the 112. There's a couple of guys here that I do like. I'm gonna go Brian Thomas Jr., someone that has sort of slid down a little bit despite getting the landing spot that I think most people kind of expected. I think it's maybe more of a case of people moving up and Brian Thomas sort of staying at the same stock that he was. This is where it's almost more for me of a Trevor Lawrence thing. I still think that there is definitely a very high end, very capable quarterback in there with Trevor Lawrence. And I think he could take an athlete like Brian Thomas Jr. and really connect well with him and hopefully get the best out of him. If we get the best out of Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to look like an absolute steal at the back end of the first round. But this is the first pick here for me where it could be just lighting a pick on fire here. He could just be absolutely nothing. But at 112, you kind of have to be okay with that as well.
Yeah, you have to do this pick. Like I made the exact pick in a league at the 112, which you'll be delighted about. But then this will be a bit part of it you hate. I traded it for Kyron Williams.
Blake Corum's backup.
And the reason being it was roster build, really struggling for running back. Tried trading up to get Brooks and missed. And then I missed on Benson in the second. So it ended up being I drafted Thomas and then swung back around to get Kyron sort of when it was late round 2 on the clock. But I just think, like you said, there's lots of potential there if Lawrence can sort of make the move, make the step. And yeah, Brian Thomas, look, he was unbelievable last season. This part of your rookie drafts, you're not going to get perfect prospects, but I think he's the right pick. He's got an amazing upside, but you are right. Yeah, it could go wrong. But I just think that upside is too enticing to go for someone safe here, like a safe wide receiver. Why are you picking safe wide receivers in round 1?
Yeah, just take a big swing, and that's certainly what Brian Thomas Jr. is. And you're back on the clock then, Kev. We're starting the second round. Who you taking with the first pick?
Yeah, this guy's social media team really made me laugh because, I mean, this might be the first time I've done a dick pic on this show, but it's Michael Penix. Yeah, the Falcons obviously got his name wrong on purpose when they announced him. I'll try not to go on a massive rant, but I just feel people are massively overlooking Michael Penix. All because of Kirk Cousins and 2026 is all I'm hearing. People have got to realize that's not the only range of outcomes. What if Cousins is slow back from his injury, gets re-injured? What if the Falcons finish 8 and 9? Hey, this team that's meant to walk the South, why wouldn't they go to Penix and see what he's got? We've just seen Russell Wilson have the biggest dead cap of all time. Cousins is less than Russell Wilson. So people that are just like me seeing Penix slide to mid round 2, back end of round 2, I think it's laughable. I think people are just being really foolish and not being open-minded and just assuming it's 3 years. And just based on how the draft is, this range of your draft, it's full of landmines. The wide receivers at this stage, that, like, being honest, it's terrible compared to last year. It's terrible compared to most years as to how it's gone, in my view. You've got a guy like Trey Benson who will get picked soon. He's an average running back. He'd be a running back 6 or 7 in other classes. There's a tight end who he goes nowhere near really round 2. So you have to make a pick. And Michael Penix, once it hits field, it's going to be a round 1 value. And there's potential it's before 2026. I'm not saying that it's definite, because it's not. But people need to realise it's not 100% given that it's 2026, and you're just leaking value to your league mates by not making the dick pick.
Absolutely great advice. If you get a chance to get a dick pic, you're right. You
got to do it.
Got to do it. One thing I think maybe people are overlooking about Michael Penix as well is, what does he do well? And then look at that Atlanta offense. They match up pretty damn well. This is why they took him here, because they've seen a guy that just ticks every box for them. And I think I wonder if they regret giving Kirk Cousins all that money, all this time there. If they took him, I think they've seen Kirk come in. There's got to be something. Or maybe they hate the 2025 quarterback class, which I don't love, but there are guys out there that could come in. They could have drafted later on, and I might have done a similar job, like someone like Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon could do a similar job, but they obviously fell in love with Michael Penix, or they fell out of love with Kirk Cousins. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Fake scenario here. What does the world do if Michael Penix starts week 1 and Kirk Cousins is fully healthy, ready to go, but they just start Penix anyway? What happens? I kind of want to see it.
Wow, my 90% exposure to Michael Penix is going to look pretty decent. I just think as well, can you remember the last black left-handed quarterback in Atlanta called Michael? Turned out pretty all right.
It's pretty good. He was pretty good. So Michael Penix locked in at 2-1. At 2-2, I'm going to make Ali very, very happy. And I'm going to go with the guy sitting up the top in the ADP charts there. It's Ladd McConkey. He's gone to that landing spot that we wanted. So many wide receivers to go to. I think with McConkey, the main reason that he's not up there in that first round is I just don't see him being the wide receiver 1 there for very long. I think he's more of a guy that will slot in and be a wide receiver 2 kind of guy moving forward. That's if the Chargers ever get more wide receivers, maybe he will be the number 1 guy. But I think for me, compared to a guy like Brian Thomas, who I took before, I just don't see Ladd McConkey as being that consistent sort of wide receiver 1 kind of player that Brian Thomas Jr. has more of a chance to do than Ladd. But in the second round, I think Ladd McConkey, super safe guy, someone I'm happy to have to put in my teams in the flex position, or if you're playing 3 deep wide receivers, put him in that kind of position. Like, he's perfect for that.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid depth piece for your dynasty teams. He's got a great landing spot with Herbert. Pretty good draft capital as well. Someone that production-wise, he didn't have a breakout age. He didn't stand out on a George team with no competition outside of Bowers. But out of what's left at wide receiver, he's definitely the safest and the smartest pick at this spot.
Love it. Thank you very much, Kev. Kind words. So, following Ladd McConkey, who's coming off the board for you at the 3rd pick of the second round, Kev?
Right, I would have loved to have sent Keon Coleman, but it sounds like they're using him on the outside, which that's just screaming bust to me. That's screaming Treylon Burks type territory, where should be in the big slot. I know I just griefed Trey Benson a couple of minutes back for being bang average, but I think he's the pick here for me. Someone that's got a nice landing spot, a clear pathway to really come on. End of this year, going into year 2. He's someone as a prospect. I'm not going to say I was down him. He was a running back too, but compared him to other classes, he doesn't really stand out. So he's someone that I'm happy to take here. But if I ever get the opportunity to flip it for a first, I'm looking to make that move.
Yeah, this is like a classic one where you can, like you said, draft someone with no real intention of ever actually using them. I think a lot of people maybe make that mistake if they're in a rebuild to think, well, I can't take the running back here because I'm in a rebuild. It's like, no, you can, because you don't have to play them. You can take them here and go ahead and sell them and keep that value accumulating for your team. And I think Trey Benson, how much did you play this year? Because James Conner, he was on a hot streak last year.
James Conner never plays full season, does he? So he's going to get some usage. I think it's difficult because I think when he's healthy, Conner can be the full bell cow type guy. Like he can do it full season, but he can do it full games. Who knows? I think if you're expecting him to contribute year 1, you're probably wrong on that. Like, I don't see a scenario where he gets a start and then Conner doesn't get his job back, because I think Conner is underrated and he's been absolutely brilliant whenever he's been on the field. But he's someone that I think in certain situations can be a bye week fill-in if Connor's injured. Otherwise, it's going to be a best ball pick for this season, in my view.
Yeah, I think so, and potentially even some buy windows out there for Trey Benson, depending on how things go. So I think good value at pick 2, 3. I pick 2, 4. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Keon Coleman here because hopefully, like you're right, the Bills do figure out the best place to play him. You know, I've sort of been notorious of not loving Keon Coleman, but the more that he's sliding, the more it's coming into line of actually, this is about right for Keon Coleman. And man, you know what's helping? Guy seems great. Like all the interviews he's doing, all the clips of it. See the clip of Keon Coleman coming out of like the Bills sort of cryo chamber for recovering from injuries, pretending to be the Undertaker with all the smoke coming by him. Like absolutely top class from Keon Coleman. So that's helping me. Sometimes those little intangibles, you're like, you know, I'll take that guy. You know, I'm gonna root for that guy. And at 2-4, we know he's got so many issues. He, had more 20-yard games than 100-yard games last year. Is he just the replacement for Gabe Davis? Probably. But Josh Allen's got to throw to somebody, right? He's got to throw somebody. So maybe it's going to be Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I just, I love the team. Like the Bills, the round 1 draft capital, perfect. You just wanted that press conference after to say it's going to be the big slot. And no, they're not having it. He's an outside wide receiver. I don't think he's fast enough to be a deep threat. He's going to struggle in my eyes. But if the C sense and somehow work it so that he's getting looks from the slot, why can't he do a little bit of damage, especially compared to his peers in this class?
I think that big slot role is locked down by the soon-to-be tight end 1, Dalton Kincaid. By the way, that's maybe why, Kev. I'm just throwing it out there. So I have picked up Keon Coleman. Who's following at 2-5 for you, Kev?
It's a guy that notoriously I was high on pre-draft. Someone that's I've seen slide into the back end of round 2. Troy Franklin. We can't ignore the draft capital that he slid to day 3. That's a massive red flag. But surprising, yeah. And this is a guy that I thought was a safe prospect before the draft. What do I know about wide receivers with my track record? But he's someone that, look, he's landing with his former college QB in Bo Nix. He's landing with Sean Payton. Who's he got to get in front of to be the outside 0, which I think he needs to have? It's Marvin Mims, someone that was disappointing rookie. So despite the draft capital, he's someone that I'm still interested in. I'm not taking him early round 2, which I was pre-draft, but I'm definitely interested from probably 2-4, 2-3, 2-4. I'm interested in going after Franklin. It's a risky move because there's guys with better draft capital, but I just think comparing him to some of the wide receivers left on the board, I think he's a lot better prospect. And if we're just taking draft capital out of it, then he destroys them. Obviously, we can't take draft capital out of it, and it is indicative. But he's someone that I'm absolutely like. JJ McCarthy, I'm rooting for number 1. Troy Franklin's probably number 2.
Did you mean that when you said destroy? Right? Was that intended there?
Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Absolutely love it. Destroy Franklin. Absolutely great. Locked in. And yeah, you're right. I think his value was revived whenever he landed there in Denver. So yeah, don't hate the pick there at 2-5 at all. I'm torn between 2 guys here. I'm gonna go with the guy I think has more potential upside and more chances to break out. I'm gonna go with Xavier Legette, who, I mean, speaking of big slots, this is a guy that can definitely do that as well. He's going into looking like a revived Carolina Panthers situation. Bryce Young should take a step, but he can't take too many more steps backwards. So hopefully they'll keep things simple. They'll run the ball. They'll keep it, dumping it out to Xavier Legette, who, I mean, he was on course for absolutely historic numbers until he sort of trailed off towards the end of the year in college football. So there are red flags there a little bit we'll look at, but when we're in the second round, he looks like a guy that's got a shot, and there's definitely a path to success there for Xavier Legette. And another guy, just like Keon Coleman. Love him. Like the interviews he's doing, super humble, super nice guy, great story. Yeah, I think I'm delighted getting a guy like Xavier Legette here at 2-6.
Yeah, massive upside if you believe in Bryce Young. Is cheap exposure at this point. Yeah, it's the end of Jonathan Mingo, but he's someone that, yeah, take a swing in round 2. Like, I think just looking at some of the other names around at wide receiver, there is some upside there with a guy we'll come on to in a little bit, but Xavier Legette, look, round 1 pick. They traded up for him as well. If we're only a little trade, but it was noteworthy. So they must really like him. And look, if you believe in Bryce Young, if you believe in Dave Canales, great value.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So he's locked in at 2-6. Kev, where are you going at 2-7? We sticking with this wide receiver run that we got going on?
We're not. I'm gonna break it up. Sorry. Marshawn Lloyd is my pick here. Nice. Someone who I've actually got in a tier with Trey Benson. Yeah, maybe not actually. I've just checked my rankings. They're not in the same team, but they're pretty close. He's close a guy enough. That, yeah, close enough. Josh Jacobs, someone that I've not been fond of throughout his career. Any running back that I miss on is usually someone that's a volume guy, terrible in terms of efficiency, but gets a ton of touchdowns. So I've missed on guys like Jacobs, like David Montgomery, etc. And I'm happy with that. Like missing on these types of profiles, that's my weak spot. So Josh Jacobs could prove me wrong game, but he was trending in the wrong direction for the Raiders. I think Matt LaFleur wants to use a split backfield, and I think that Marshawn Lloyd's going to get the passing work, and I think he's obviously a better athlete than Jacobs. It could be more of an even split than people give him credit for. And again, he's someone that there's a clear pathway after this season that Jacobs is gone. He's someone that could be running back 1 on a Jordan Love, sexy Packers offense. So mid-round 2, big fan.
Not a huge fan there, Kev, because you stole my pick. I was going to go with Penix. I didn't think you were going to go with him. I thought you were going to. I even tried to tease you into it, asking you to keep the wide receiver run. Seen right through it. So yeah, love that pick of Marshawn Lloyd there at 2-7. That means I'm going to have to go back and dip into the wide receiver Well, I'm gonna go. Don't love the pick, but I do like this player. And if you squint, you can see an opportunity for Ricky Pearsall, but it does depend on a lot of things happening. We need to see Deebo Samuel start to decline. He is getting up there in age. We do expect that to happen at some stage. We need to see Brandon Ayuk not sign a new contract, which it is trending towards that way. So Ricky Pearsall needs a couple of things to happen for him to really like break out and have some kind of fantasy success. But there's a chance there, and back end of round 2, if there is a small chance to become a valuable piece on an offense like Kyle Shanahan's, I'll just roll the dice on it at 2-7.
He's like the reverse Kirk Cousins, I think, in this, where obviously Cousins got the bad news in the draft, and Pearsall, you're thinking, right, landed on the 49ers, let's get Deebo or Ayuk out of town, and Nick's wheels up.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen for him. So it's one of those where you probably have to wait a season to really see what the plan is. I think prospect-wise, I wasn't a huge fan, but draft capital-wise was really good. And he's on the 49ers, so he's going to have a lot of appeal to many teams in your league. So yeah, I'd say if you're patient, if you don't need him right now, mid to late round 2, you've got to make a pick, and you're picking a guy here that has got the draft capital to sort of hold his value and give you a little bit of a window to make a pivot, or at least sort of gather your thoughts on where to go with this guy.
Yes, that's another one that I don't love it, but I've seen the draft capital. I've seen a lot of people, from around the Dynasty community take them much, much higher than this. So I'm happy to take a swing on it based on the opinions of some other people rather than just me. So again, it's that, not just thinking that your opinion is the be end all and be all and end all of all things Dynasty. So I'm happy to take a swing at Pearsall based on some opinions of others at 2-8. And Kev, back on to you with your penultimate pick at 2-9. Where are you going?
Starts getting tricky, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll go AD Mitchell, wide receiver. I think someone that's got, again, huge upside. His profile's pretty terrible if you're looking production-wise, but yeah, if you like watching highlights, he's one of the best wide receivers in the class. I think there's tons of raw talent. It's just not come together yet. I actually don't mind the landing spot with the Colts. I think someone that can stretch a field opposite Michael Pittman with Josh Downs in the middle. I think the Colts are a really interesting team going into next season. With Richardson, there's no tight end of consequence there either. So, yeah, I think 2-9. I'm really, really pleased with this pick as someone that's likely going to be a bust, but I'm happy to find out at this cost.
Yeah, he's a weird one, right? Because he was a guy that was going back end of the first whenever we had this pre-draft. He got a pretty decent landing spot, and now he's sort of going back end of the second. It's maybe it's an interesting one how he has slipped just so far down there. So yeah, I don't hate taking Eddie Mitchell there at all. I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to take the running back 1 for the Los Angeles Rams, which is Blake Corum. He's going to come in. He's going to push that bum Karen Williams to the side, and yeah, that'll be that over at the LA Rams. And yeah, sell your Karen Williams while you can, ladies and gentlemen. Right?
Max, I just traded for him. No, I think with Corum, like, he's someone that I was shocked that he went round 2 to the Rams. That's giving me more positivity on him. I've not been able to pull the trigger on him just yet because my league mates have liked him more than I do. Yeah. So I wouldn't say I'm like out on him. It's just that people are more in on him. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see at Rams offense how it pans out, and I think it's very commendable how hard you've got to have to carry Williams if you kept at it. Like that's true. That's true passion, that, Max. I wish I had your passion of hate towards Kyron.
You just got to keep. I'm gonna just keep doubling down until he's like 35 and out of the league, and then I'll tell everyone I told you. that's my plan to just keep hitting them every single year, and eventually these running backs get old, and I'll be right eventually, Kev. So I'll just keep on hitting on Carr. I'm still shocked Blake Corum isn't a Charger. I'm still waiting for them to trade for him. I was like, everyone was so sure that Harbaugh was going to go get his guy, and yeah, he ends up on the other side of LA over at the Rams instead of the Chargers. Kev, you got one more pick. Let's make it the best one you've made all night. Who are you going with?
Yeah, it's a mess, is it, this board at this point?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Ben Sinnott at tight end.
Nice.
I think he's a clear tight end to this class with a super draft capital and in an offense tied to Jane Daniels. Exciting. I'm not like massively high on the wide receivers, McLaurin and Dotson. So I think there's pathway for him to really, really stand out and shine. What can he be in Dynasty? Probably low end tight end one.
Yeah.
Maybe what if he hits.
He's a tight end with a pulse, so that's possible.
So it's with the expectation that if he hits perfectly, he's probably not going to be any higher than tight end 8, tight end 7 if everything goes to the plan. But to 11, if you can change that to a future second, which could be random, or you can make it a mid-second next year, they're the little wins which, if you do enough of those, it really adds up over time.
Yeah, he's the only thing that annoys me about him is he was a guy that whenever I started doing like my prospect study and looking at all like back sort of even before Christmas, he was someone I identified as like a sleeper you should be targeting later, and now it's like God, like that's just not happening now. Like he can't be my like late round guy anymore, which is a bit of a shame. But I'm also happy for Benson as well, getting that draft capital and consistently appearing in the second round of drafts. And got one pick left, Kev. Now this is where, for people who don't know, I'm sort of running a little challenge for myself and others at the minute, which is trying to rebuild the worst Dynasty team you've ever seen over on the Dynasty Odyssey. And this was the sort of situation we were in recently where there was one pick to go and then I was on the clock again at 3-1. And I leave a comment saying, who do you think I should pick? And everybody was screaming Jalen Polk, which kind of shocked me a little bit. He was the number one. You must go draft him. Now, he eventually did end up going at the 212, so I wasn't able to go out and get him. I was shocked by that, though, because I'm not a big Jalen Polk guy, to be honest with you. He's not the guy I'm going to go with here, actually. I'm going to go ahead and take the guy that has got an interesting opportunity here at Pittsburgh and Roman Wilson. The reason for that is we know that Deontay Johnson has left Pittsburgh and he's left a ton of targets behind him. Now, the issue is, of course, as we've discussed several times, Kev, Arthur Smith is the devil and he will ruin anything he touches. But I am hoping that, he's not too involved in the play calling too heavily, and we do see Roman Wilson get an opportunity there, and Mike Tomlin will be the guy that's actually pushing Arthur Smith aside and telling him, listen, you just do what I said and you just stand there, all right?
I think it's going to be annoying, isn't it, when you see like touchdown R. Wilson and it ends up being Russell.
Yeah.
But I think like this sort of pick, it gets me thinking about sort of where McConkey went at 2-2, where Wilson's gone at 2-12. It's not a diss on McConkey. I'm not just saying it because Ali's not here to defend him. I think where McConkey goes 2-2 is fine. But Roman Wilson's discount like McConkey for me. If I can get him nearly around later, that's perfect. And just on Jalen Polk, I think getting Javon Baker 2 rounds later is the move there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with Polk. And Kev, that brings us to the end of our 2-round post NFL draft mock draft here on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. Kev, what a great show. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up here?
I mean, the best two have brought the best show that we've released post draft. I think you know what, like there hasn't been a ton of change, which I think is the right thing. I think if you've, let's say, got your top 24 and it's all over the place after the draft, you're waiting too much on probably your landing spots. Draft capital should be a factor, but I think landing spots don't need to come in too much. But yeah, some great picks. And yeah, just be open-minded on players that you were high on before, they can drop, or players that you're low on, you can get higher on as well. So I think you did a great job, Max.
Same to you, mate. Yeah, I think we both absolutely crushed it there. And of course, we keep talking about these guys all night, but sadly, it is time to go. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you've not already, hey, make sure you're following us over on X at the Fantasy Wildcard, and of course, check out Wildcard Dynasty as well to get all the updates in this show. And hey, our friends over at Wildcard Rewind and Wildcard Devi 2, make sure you're checking them out as well. Is this where we have to also give our friend and colleague Paul Picken a shout out for completing the London Marathon as well, Kev? I feel like that's appropriate, right? He absolutely smashed.
Probably should.
Yeah. Why not? Yes. Yeah, go on, Paul. Good for you. Yeah, absolutely love it. So, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.